All right, we are back here once again with the magnificent wizard Patrick Giguere. And he is going to initiate us into some Western mysteries having to do with, you can explain it maybe a little better, having to do with how in history the knowledge of the three ones, the Trinity, all the aspect of that and the power of that isn't just an idea, that it's something that's been reflected in all kinds of different ways. And anyway, I don't want to step on your toes there, but I
No, not
believe
at
that's
all.
what we're going to talk about. So take it away, Master.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And now you're never stepping on my toes. I wouldn't be here unless it was, for you, I wouldn't be here. So awesome. Um, we're gonna go on a journey around the world tonight. We're gonna look at architecture. We'll start in the West. We're gonna look at India, Egypt, Central America, South America, China, and we're gonna explore. The idea is. I read this book years ago, written in stone by Richard Casaro. He's an American Freemason. He lives in, I think, Spain now, and his books are really difficult to get a hold of now. Um, but he was a Mason for quite a long time, and he started saying to himself, there's got to be something more to this. And there's a discussion in Freemasonry where they say that the real secrets were hidden sometime in the 1800s. There was a scandal in upstate New York where there was a a guy who was a member, and then one day he threatened to reveal the secrets of the organization, and then he died mysteriously, and then all of a sudden, the whole body of knowledge seemed to be a little hollowed out
Mm.
after they were supposedly protecting these secrets. And different people will write books about that organization, and they'll say, "Yeah, I made it to the 32nd degree, and there wasn't really any crazy wild secrets in it." And part of that is you have to you have to be able to discern what you're learning. So the summary of this book is he's saying that encoded in world architecture, there's this idea of the three ones or the three forces. And his thesis is that the big secret of Freemasonry around the world and all these secret societies is that we are gods living in a tomb, in a temple of flesh. And he's tying all these world beliefs together. And and he's saying basically Freemasonry, which even existed in ancient China in some form, was encoding this information. And so, all these people will say, "Oh, in Freemasonic lodges, you get trained to be an evil Satan worshiper and da 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 da." And it's like, well, if you tell a Christian that you're really a god from a
Yeah.
celestial realm that's living in a temple of flesh, it's heretical and satanic.
Yeah.
So you don't have to tell them a whole lot to set them off. So if you look at the secret of Freemasonry from that angle, it's like, oh, well, that's not that crazy. It's not sinister, but it's evil as shit for a committed Abrahamist.
Yeah. Big time. Big time. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but I'm sure you've obviously heard the very wild, crazy claims I've been making in recent videos about being an avatar of a god, and that every human being is an avatar of a god. And this I only know because I've recently seen it and experienced it. Wouldn't have thought that, 4 years ago. And
Yeah.
the default reaction of people is to focus on whatever claims I make about myself. And they just completely forget that the whole point of that is to say, you're a God. You're an omnipotent God. having a 3D human experience. That goes out of their head. And what that
Mm.
tells me is that that's what bothers them. Not that I've made any claims about, you know, my experience or what I've found out to be true, but that if they accept what I say, then they're going to have to accept that that means they're a god. And I think people have a really hard time with that. And that is absolutely blasphemy to a Christian. It's what Satan supposedly said. When Satan supposedly said, I am now God, and that, how dare you? You know, God doesn't go, yeah, man, that's awesome. You figured it. No, he goes, how dare you? I'm God. Who do you think? Get out! Get out! You know,
Oh,
and then ironically, he becomes the god of the world. You know, according to them, he's now the, controlling the world, which is kind of ironic, that anyway. But so you're saying
yeah.
that this has been knowledge that has been known and that the Masons, among others, kept this knowledge and used it,
Yes,
kept it secret for whatever reason?
absolutely. And the interesting thing is that they they use whatever culture they're operating in, they use that cultural mythology to explain their lore. So you go into a Masonic lodge now, they have this veneer of like Judeo-Christianity, but in the early 1700s, they were not talking about rebuilding Solomon's temple. They were talking about rebuilding the Tower of Babel.
Wow.
Yes, because you had a united humanity under one language, out of this world technology, out of this world knowledge and wisdom and spiritual wisdom and science. Um, it wasn't a world where anyone was under anyone's thumb.
So that would have been blasphemous to the Christian religion because in the Christian mythology,
Yes,
God wipes out Babel and creates all these different languages
yes,
because for whatever reason, one language, one whatever, one science, one knowledge was somehow evil.
exactly. Exactly. So 1717 was when Freemasonry officially went public. So that was the founding of the Grand Lodge of England, which all the American lodges are under, and all the Irish lodges and the Scottish lodges. So, but they existed well before that, and it's even I sent you a video about there was a guy who was longtime Freemason, an agnostic, a religious agnostic. He wanted to get to the bottom of who the whole historical Jesus may have been. I don't want to dive into that topic right now, but he was like, yeah, this guy's a Freemason. Like when he raised Lazarus, he was just giving him the third degree ceremony. And that's where the candidate is symbolically dies and is resurrected by the master of the lodge.
So is that where we get the phrase, uh, given the third degree?
Yes,
And that's because the third degree represents death.
death and rebirth.
Okay.
And when you get your third degree, you're fully into you're an official club member. You can branch out into the adjunct organizations, so like the Shriners, the Scottish Rite, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, so your third degree, so it's first is entered apprentice, second is a fellow craft, and then so it's like you're doing your apprenticeship, and then third is you're a master and you're in. So
Okay.
yeah, getting the third degree. And we have all these expressions in the English language, like a square deal, doing things on the level, doing things on the square.
Yeah.
So,
Those are all from the same idea.
yeah. And when you graduate from a university or high school, you got the gown on. The cap is called a mortar board. So you put your cement on there so you can scoop it off with your trowel. It's everywhere.
Got it. Okay.
So it goes on and on and on and on.
Very good. All right. Well, let's get into some more blasphemy here.
Okay. So I'll pull some images and just let me know when you want me to jump out of the image, when we
Okay.
go on a dialogue. Okay. Okay, so let's look at Notre Dame. Oops. Hang on a sec. Hang on, I kind of botched that one. Oh God. Oh, what did I do this time? One sec, I just have to grab the file. Got too much crap up. Okay, here we go. All right, now I'm going to share this. Okay, so that's the facade of Notre Dame Cathedral, Paris. What I want to point out here, first off, bottom of the structure, you've got three doorways. So this in architecture is called a triptych. So tri for three. So you get the center doorway, which is the widest and the tallest. And then you have two doorways on either side. They're identical, but they're smaller in scale. So what this is representing the three forces. So one of the concepts this is working with, you have a duality, you've got a pair, and then you have one in the middle. So it's all about balancing opposites. So on the one hand, you've got three unique forces, but then you have a middle path between balanced opposites. When I say middle path, anybody who's, read up on spirituality and religions, it brings Buddhism to mind and a lot of different things to mind. So the big thing here is the doorways. Middle path between balanced opposites and in three unique forces. And what you have above that middle doorway, you have the rose window, big stained glass window. It looks like an eye. And the author of that book, written in stone, his thesis is that this is an encoded representation of the third eye because you have to balance opposing opposite forces in order to find your center, your true center, so you can activate that third eye. And then two, on the facade of this cathedral, you've got the two towers. And on all of these Gothic cathedrals, these twin towers are called the spire of the sun and the spire of the moon. And there's a lunar and a solar weather vane on each, respectively. And then very subtly, you've got that kind of in the back of the cathedral, you've got that thin little spire in between. So, but when you look at the spires, really the middle it's more of a negative space than
Yeah.
it is an actual like third thing. But you do have the skinny little spire in the back. So that's that image. I'll jump out of there. So, that's an image is very familiar in the Western world, and it's pretty cool in if you're there in Paris at the right time of day, that that stained glass window, since it faces west, actually shines in the light of the setting sun. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool. So just to bring some uh, relevance to this, we are also talking about one of the things that we teach is the method of the three ones, which has to do with the three dantians or energy collection points, which is the third eye, the heart, and the navel. And of course, the third eye would represent the pineal gland and connection to higher dimensional realms. And so this is why these structures seem to be focusing the attention to that, to the third eye.
Hmm.
And the other two are there and you need it, but they, yeah, when when I was listening to you, I was just staring at the picture of the cathedral, and it was having an effect on me,
Mm.
having an effect of understanding that in our 3D reality, we're always trying to balance duality, and awakening is when you get to that point, like you said, the middle path. We get to that point where we can live in that, and really in the third dimensional reality. We call this the third dimension, but and it is, there's physically three dimensions. There's up, down, left, right, front, and back. But in reality, most people only live in a two-dimensional reality. Everything's either good or bad, happy or sad, right or wrong. And we see in two dimensions. So even though I'm looking at your image on a two-dimensional screen, you don't look any different than you would if you were in front of me. Slight, I'd see a little bit more detail and fullness. My brain would create more fullness, but the reality is that light is hitting you and hitting the back of my retina in a two-dimensional image, and my brain is doing the rest. So we live in two dimensions. We function in two dimensions, and spirituality is always about bringing in that third dimension. So, when we shift up, if somebody shifts up to the fourth dimension, then what'll happen is they will see things in three dimensions. They will experience things in three dimensions, and then they will seek to go to that fourth dimension. Same thing, the fifth dimension. People will experience everything in four dimensions, and then they will seek to get to that fifth dimension. So what I'm hearing you say is that this is in the architecture, and that these people are going past all the words, and they're using the architecture to, because I found myself wanting to sit there and just stare at that from that level and imagining what would happen, if the sun came in and all that. And it would, if you wanted to, you could let that shift you.
Hmm.
So anyway, I wanted to bring some
Yeah.
background and relevance to that. And we do have a practice again called holding the method of holding the three ones, which is a meditative practice where you actually envision and see the three ones. And what is taught is that when you can see them in front of you, with your eyes open, fully conscious, then you'll shift. So people spent their whole lives envisioning those three centers and communicating with them, and each one of them is a god and all of that. So you're saying that this is knowledge that has been known and it's been kept secret. Now, before we go any further, so are you saying, or am I hearing this right, that this knowledge can go either way, and that these people in power aren't necessarily good or evil, but
Right.
it's this knowledge, and then when you get to that level, you decide how you want to, based on who you are, what you want to do with it?
Absolutely. Um, it's like we have this, when we grow up, and then most adults in this world, they have this idea of the government, the military, the media, the Masons, and it's like none of these organizations are monoliths. They're all made up of these factions of people who disagree with each other. And now
Yeah.
in this world, people with ill intent are the most organized because they're so hyper intellectual, because they're so narcissistic.
And yeah, they're
They have to
psychopathic.
stay, yeah, and they have to stay up all night thinking about everything.
Yeah. Before we go on, I'm just learning this, so I think this is important information. We throw around the word narcissist and psychopath, and they're easily conflated, but there's a difference. Um, there's the codependent victim, and then there's the narcissist. And if we're talking about a grandiose narcissist, the ones that are really full of them or appear like they're full of themselves, what happens is they have access to emotions. They do have access to things like empathy, but it's called cold empathy, meaning it doesn't affect them in the way that it affects a normal person, in that they feel for the other person and want to help them. They just go, oh, I know what that person's thinking and feeling, and now I know how to use that. They desperately need attention. They desperately need what's called, narcissistic fuel, or whatever they call that,
Oh, supply. Yeah, yeah.
narcissistic supply, so that, and attention, and then services, how they can get you to do things for them. But they have this fake ego that they've created, that they live through vicariously, which isn't themselves, because if they accessed their experience of themselves, they would feel this empty, completely worthless, unlovable, black hole piece of garbage. So they create this fake persona that they live through, and then you're supposed to worship that. And the more that you worship that, then that takes the pressure off of them, and they feel like they can pretend to be that person. So that's a narcissist. And then there's a psychopath. And a psychopath is somebody, as I understand it, who's been so damaged, like horrifically damaged, that, like, I think it's the amygdala, like, shuts down and is non-functional. So it's not like the narcissist who has empathy, but, you know, has a weird relationship with it, or has emotions, but has a weird relationship to them. The psychopath is literally just dead inside. There's nobody home. And so they don't care what you think. They don't care whether you like them or don't like them. Their thought process is, how can I use this to my benefit? So, and I heard this, I was just listening to a psychologist who was making the distinction between the two. And he said, so if you had a situation where a plane, the pilot of the plane, died or something, and you went to the people on the plane and say, "Hey, can anybody fly the plane?" And the narcissist goes, "Yeah, I can fly a plane." He's going to have a fantasy. So his fantasy is he's going to fly the plane, and he's going to do all of these brave things, and upside down, underneath things, and he's going to save everybody. And then when he lands the plane, everybody will clap and worship him, and he'll be loved. And so his ego will inflate. So he'll create a fantasy where he saves everybody, and everybody loves him. And I laughed out loud when he then started talking about the psychopath. I wasn't ready for this. He said, and a psychopath fantasy would be if the pilot dies, and they go to him, okay, you have to fly the plane. He says the psychopath fantasy would be, how can I steal everybody's money and belongings and then just jump out of the plane? He's only interested in what he's going to get out of it. And then he went on to say, if he doesn't do that, then what he's going to do is he's going to fly the plane like a normal person, but he's going to figure out how he can leverage that so he gets money, right? So there's the difference. So people, we think that we call the elites narcissists, but the narcissists are down here. The psychopaths are up here. And
Yeah, narcissists are.
the only thing they're thinking about is how they can leverage everything to get whatever it is that they think they want: money,
Yeah.
power, control, whatever it is. And so, like you said, and both narcissists and psychopaths don't sleep. This is a biological fact. They might sleep for a couple of hours because they pass out. But healthy people sleep not just for the physical, but because their psyche needs to, all the emotions
Yeah.
of the psyche needs to reprogram itself so that when you wake up, you're, a person again. But a psychopath doesn't have a psyche. So they just need enough sleep. And then they're up thinking about how they're going to rule the world and manipulate it, which is why, we're while we're figuring it out what they're doing, we are 100 steps behind them.
Hmm.
They're like
Exactly
they're
it.
already, 200 steps ahead of us, and they've already figured out what to do if you figure out what you just figured out. And they've got a psychological operation ready to go to to harness that and leverage it again towards something that they want. So you were saying, so what I'm hearing you say is that people get up to this level, and it doesn't, there's all different kinds, but the psychopaths are the one that's going to take this science of reality in the third
Yes.
dimension, and then they're going to end up on top because they spend all their time thinking about how can I use this to leverage myself into a position of advantage.
Yeah. And the irony is that they're incapable of fully using the knowledge,
Yeah.
but what they will do is keep you from understanding it.
Yep.
Like, well, if I can't have it, you sure as shit can't.
I think that is the absolute best way to describe it. I've been thinking about this ever since I was shown what happened in Atlantis, and I'm like, well, it's obvious to me that there was a group of those elite psychopaths who have been in connection with this knowledge the whole time. And they thought, when Atlantis fell, they thought they were just going to storm the palace and get the knowledge. And they got there and they found out it wasn't there like they thought. It wasn't written in a book. And you know what? It was, the king had something that they could never get, and it wasn't written
Yeah.
down. And they've been searching for it ever since.
Yeah.
For
It's like,
13,000 years, they've been trying to get the knowledge that can only happen through a spiritual experience.
hmm yeah. Yeah. Drug dealers send their kids to Harvard because, you
Yeah.
know, well, I think that's what rich people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the people who work their way up these secret societies who are actually balanced, empathetic people with access to their soul and their emotions, they're not trying to leverage everything possible.
Yeah.
So they're not so organized. So they they have an impact on the world, but it's not so far reaching because they're not creating chaos so that they can leverage the public reaction to it.
Yeah. And they're
And they
not
don't,
se they're not seeking complete control.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the psychopath only sees people literally as lifeless things to be used. And again, because they're psychopaths, the only thing that they gain any kind of narcissistic pleasure from are the things we would consider to be unspiritual. So they have to
Exactly.
have, and the interesting thing, because I was like, okay, so how is it that psychopaths become, serial killers? Sometimes narcissists become serial killers, but the narcissists always want to get caught.
Mm.
So they will do things, they will send things to the press, or they will, send letters to the police, or they'll leave just enough evidence so that they eventually get caught, and then, or they'll turn themselves in.
hmm
So they can say, I was the one, I controlled you, blah, but they want the attention. Psychopath doesn't want that. He's perfectly capable of spending his whole life and using his knowledge to never get caught.
hmm
But he needs, because he's dead inside, he needs to have the awakening, and not maybe that's how he experiences it. He needs to have the stimulation that can only happen in really, really extreme experiences, like when you're killing somebody. Then they finally feel alive. So it explains why these psychopaths are using this spiritual knowledge and then distorting it into these satanic rituals that have all of these intense things, killing and murdering and sacrificing, fill in the blank,
Yeah.
because that's the only way they can feel alive. And at the same time, in their mind, they're leveraging it because then they believe that, the devil gives them some power as a result of, whatever they've sacrificed.
Yeah.
Okay, I forget what my point was, but anyway.
Yeah. 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 All right. Let me pull up a couple examples.
Okay.
familiar ones, and then we'll. So this is a cool one. New York Public Library. So you've got the three doorways.
Library being a place of knowledge.
Hmm. So you get the three doorways, taller one in the middle. And then what's pretty cool is you have the two well, actually two sphinxes
Yeah.
on each side. And that's like we'll see with some Chinese architecture how they use the fu dogs, which is a form of a lion,
Yeah.
at the temple gateways. And then on top here, we've got the triangle.
Okay.
The triangle is a very important symbol because you have the two lower points, which are complementary opposites, and then you have that high point in the middle, which is you can look at it as a synthesis
Yep.
of those two other points. And
Wait,
then,
put that back up,
oh, certainly.
please.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my first reaction is I'm seeing the difference between this and the previous picture, the
Yeah.
cathedral, in that all three of the doorways look equal. All the
Yeah.
arches. So this would make sense because this is a house for everybody. It's a public library,
Yeah.
right? So this is for the average person who lives in the undifferentiated third dimension where they're not trying to seek to open their third eye and gain. This is just for everybody. This is just knowledge. So they're just, the three ones. That's what I get from this.
Yeah. The one argument I could make against it, but I'm reaching, is that the triangle at the top could be an extension of the middle doorway since they're centered. But
Okay. But even
I,
if
I
that's true, it's still
yes,
proportionately less, and that to me
yes,
would make sense to, okay, well, this is for, the public, so we don't need to make a big deal out of it. But yeah,
yeah,
we should encourage them to go up a little bit into their third eye.
yeah. It's not seeking to create a state of consciousness like a Gothic cathedral.
It's not looking to get power over others, which one could say that's what the cathedrals are, and other ones is that the people use religion to gain
Yeah,
control. Whereas this is a public place, and this is
yeah.
everybody, so we don't have to. But yeah, the knowledge is still in there. Anyway, I could be wrong. That's just what I see when I look at it. Anyway, please
No,
continue.
that makes a lot of sense. Um, let's do another familiar example. Let's look at Rockefeller Center. So this is where, right in front of the statue of Prometheus, they have the skating rink in the winter.
Yep,
So it's in a lot of films like Home Alone and Elf, all that kind of thing.
yep.
So behind Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, you've got these three doorways, the center being the tallest. And then in the middle there, this is supposed to be the god of knowledge, and he's holding a compass. So compasses draw circles, and the heavens, the horizon, are always seen as circular because you can turn around 360 degrees and you see the horizon.
Yeah.
Um, so let me close these windows. Everyone in the neighborhood's commenting on our paint job.
Okay.
It's like, all right. Sorry about that.
I didn't hear it, but I
Oh,
understand.
okay, good. It's making me self-conscious.
I could understand why that would be annoying.
So you've got this God of knowledge holding the compass. So yeah, the compass draws circles. So the heavens are circular, the earth is square. So you use a square to measure the earth and a compass to measure the heavens. So you got the God of knowledge in the middle. Um, and the inscription, wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy time. And on either side, you've got on the right for us, you've got this solar figure, and on the left, you've got this lunar figure. So you've got these balanced opposites.
And so
So,
that's a theme, the solar and the lunar, which would be the soul and the intuitive mind.
yes.
And so the center of that, which would be the synthesis of those two, is wisdom.
Yeah.
Got the idea? And that's true. Okay, do we need this picture anymore?
Now we put it down.
Okay, so that's true. And I'm really enjoying the oldest Egyptian mythologies. And the god Atum, the creator, his eyes, one of is the sun and the other one is the moon,
Right.
so that would represent that you've got the spirit, which is the soul, the sun is the soul, and you've got the moon, which is the intuitive mind, and then the synthesis of those two would then be the self, whatever. I don't know. I'm just sort
Hmm.
of guessing here, but
Yeah.
so that's a reality. That's so if we accept those mythologies as teaching some kind of representation of reality, then yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, I want to ask you, so do you believe that there is, I don't know the terminology, like white hats versus the black hats or whatever?
Yeah, I think yes, I think that concept is, excuse me. I think people are onto something, but it's not so cut and dry.
Because this keeps popping up in different places. I think I've heard it. I think even heard it from Dr. Greer that there are factions within the deep state that are working to try and reveal them and all that. And of course, they got to be careful on the one hand, so they don't get Charlie Kirk, and at the same time. And by the way, isn't it just crazy? All of the NASA scientists and the scientists of anti-grav scientists
Mm,
just disappearing.
yeah.
11 of them.
Yeah.
That's and the fact I think there's a psychological operation there because we're being told that on the news, and we even have the so-called whistleblowers like Luis Elizondo talking about it, which tells me, okay, this is a psyop.
Yeah, and Spielberg is like releasing a disclosure movie, and it's like
Oh
that's the
yeah.
biggest red flag.
And it's so creepy. It's so fucking creepy. The beginning is a woman becoming possessed by some. That's supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
awakening of the world. What the fuck, man? It's so creepy.
Uh, so yeah, I think there are such a thing as white hats. I think they live in fear of their lives.
I would imagine so.
I think they often have to imitate the black hats
Yep.
to blend in. Um, it's very convoluted, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't imagine how you could be that deep, and I can't imagine how you'd be able to do that. I mean, I'm thinking in terms of power.
Yeah.
What you would need is you'd need power to be able to overcome that. And I
Yeah, if
can't
you
imagine.
start rising within the military or say intelligence agencies, you have to have a sponsor. So it's like let's say you're in like the army. You want to go from like colonel to general. It's like the mafia. You've got to get a made man who
Yeah,
wants to bring you up.
yeah.
It's like Hollywood's the same damn thing.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
all about that.
Yeah, I know all about that. I saw that firsthand.
They want to make sure if you get into the position that they can predict how you're going to act
Yeah,
and
and then they can use you if they need to.
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, something in my
Hmm.
house is making a weird noise. Usually when we're talking about something, we get to some major thing. This is the second time this happened. This noise, there it goes. It's got to be the It's got to be the refrigerator. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so what were we just saying? Because it sounds like that was important. What were we just saying?
It was about, how it works with you've got to get sponsored to rise in the world, basically.
Okay.
Like there's a certain point where you can go on your own efforts, under the steam of your own efforts. And then to make that next leap, you need a made man to bring
Yeah.
you in.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is that they have to be able to leverage you when they
Yeah.
want to and when they need to. And if they can't, I mean, obviously they'd get rid of you. Which for me personally, I've never thought Trump wasn't a narcissist. I've always known that. I've
Yes.
never had any doubts that he didn't do the things he's been accused of to, young. I have, we know he's got that, that famous quote of his about, the P word,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
which is you can't explain that away. So obviously that's a reality. But I believe that he meant most of what he said about, not going to war. He was very passionate about that and getting rid of the IRS. I think he was very passionate about all those things that got him elected. And then to see him then being leveraged to the point that he is now, where he's literally doing everything opposite from what he
Yeah.
said he was going to do. And you can see, I don't see a guy who's likes doing that. I think it's clear that he has no choice. That
You're
they that
right.
they that they finally just said, okay, oh, you didn't realize we have this on you, and now you're going to do exactly what we say.
Yeah. And he took $100 million from a dual national whose second citizenship is an unnamed country in the Middle East who is supposedly our greatest ally.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and even that's not enough. They've got to have something on him that's
Oh,
so bad that he just can't.
I
It would
think
be one thing if he said, well, these people gave me a lot of money, but you know what? I don't believe in that. I'm not going to do it. He's not. It's got to be something so bad that either he and or his family are in grave danger if he doesn't do what they say.
so. What I think part of what it is countries outside of NATO, their news medias have talked about how one of the reasons Russia invaded Ukraine was because Western drug companies had laboratories in Ukraine. I think Mr. Trump was likely the developer
Oh,
who's making all the logistics happen. And then he was a needlecraft salesman, the
yeah, he
greatest
sure
salesman.
was. He sure was. He was the first guy to come with the whatever the hell that was, Operation, whatever the
The
hell,
warp speed.
Warp Speed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, and you could make an argument that was a that what happened in the 1940s was a dress rehearsal
Yep.
for that event. So he's kind of damned by his involvement. And Epstein was probably the finance
Oh, clearly.
for these development projects.
What was amazing to me is it's clear that how much power he had. He wasn't just some guy who got lucky and got rich. He was very clear. He said that he was the representative of the Rothschilds. Very
Yeah.
clear. He was very open about that. And even
Yeah.
Clinton in his latest, whatever the hell that was, deposition, he even said, "Oh yeah, that person was my entry into the Rothschilds, which was very helpful." He's very clear about that. So
Mhm.
there's no secret about that.
No.
But what I was saying about power, what I was wanting to say about power was, to me, when I think about the white hats, whoever they might be, that when I think about what they must be going through, trying to, whatever it is they're trying to do, I can't imagine being able to be successful unless you have spiritual power.
Yeah.
Because this is the only way to be, like you said, these are psychopaths who have mastered whatever you can master on the physical realm based on both the physical and the spiritual knowledge. They have mastered it. That whatever it is that we are just now figuring it out when we meditate and we see the three, they've already figured all that out as much as can be figured out in the third dimensional mind. And so the only thing I can imagine that would be able to overcome them would be a spiritual power that was beyond that.
Yeah. There was a I've met people who work in these agencies or they work in like the whole aerospace thing, which is all tied in with the agencies. And you'll meet people who work for these organizations and you don't get the creepy, crawly psychopath feelings. You can tell there's something spiritual in there and you kind of wonder like, how the F do you do that every day?
Yeah.
Like, how do you interact with these people? My own reaction to that world was like, screw this, I'm out of here. Like, this is just sick.
That's right. So you were in, tell us again, you were in intelligence or what were you?
Yeah, yeah. I went to the Naval Academy, and then I became a naval officer. I went to the intelligence officer class and did that for a few years. And
So you know a lot more about this than those of us who are just hypothesizing.
yeah, I didn't do it for 20 years, but a lot of people came out of the woodwork and showed me things and told me things and invited me in to experience things. And I've always been that fly on the wall kind of person that someone wants to tell something to, so it really served me. But yeah, I was just like, people tell me things, and I'm like, well, it's fascinating, but it's insane.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I want to believe that this is all going to get exposed. And I think there's a possibility for that. I mean, astrologically, I've talked about how I think that's happening, but what I'm noticing now, which is getting my attention, is that celebrity is just being completely, totally deconstructed. Like people who come across, very honest and wise, and and you think to yourself, wow, they've really they're a celebrity because they're talented or smart or something, and then it's coming out that they're just full on narcissists.
oh yeah.
I mean, the latest one of my latest uh, mysteries I'm watching unfold, just and destroy itself is who's the guy who just became a Christian? What's his name?
Russell Brand.
Russell Brand.
Oh, what a wreck.
I saw him and I remember when he turned into a Christian, and I thought that doesn't make a lot of sense. He was this Buddhist guy. Buddhists don't turn into Christians. That's just not how that works.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, okay, maybe he's just flipping out and he's scared. And then it's just now obvious now. He just wrote a book. I can't believe the title. He wrote a book called How to Become a Christian in 7 Days.
Oh God.
And it's going to come out in May. And, he's going to go to trial and may go to jail for the rest of his life for sexual assault
Oh
uh,
yeah.
in October. So it's like, oh, now I get it. I mean, and he walks around with a giant cross. He walks around with a Bible. It's just like it's now just so
Yeah.
obvious. This is just a facade. This is just a narcissist who is completely falling apart, who's doing his best to try and people like Will Smith and others who are just completely, totally collapsing in on themselves.
Yeah.
That we're seeing, and it's not my intention to beat any of these people up. I wish them well, but to see that celebrities coming apart, the whole idea of celebrities collapsing in on itself, and I have to, I'd like to believe that this will be the case for, the people we're talking about, the psychopath, cabal that's running everything.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that this is going to be their end as well. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think they have their planned information releases, but then I think the information releases go in different directions than they anticipate.
Yeah, that's
Because it's like the 6 million Epstein files. 6 million is a trigger.
yeah,
And you unconsciously you go, "Oh my God, like the Holocaust."
yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
I had an awakening about that, but I'm not going to talk about it because
oh, that's radioactive on here.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, basically I figured out exactly what the Nuremberg trial was designed to do, and it's not what we think. It was designed to, well, I'll just leave it there. It was
There's
orchestrated to accomplish something that we're experiencing now.
there's a show I'd like to do with you sometime. Speaking of the Nuremberg trials, when you look up a treaty that ends a war is called an instrument of surrender. And when you look at the instrument of surrender that was signed in Europe at the end of World War II, the high command of the German military surrendered, but not the Nazi Party or the SS. So in the legal world, there's no Joe Biden like, oh, you know what I mean, you know what I mean. In the legal world, if it's not on paper.
It doesn't
So
exist. Yeah.
I think I think they've been running around ever since.
Yeah.
I think that's what hit the ground at Roswell was one of their crafts because the Air Force captain who investigated that incident was a paperclip debriefer 2 years before. So when he was debriefing these Nazi scientists and military officers, they told him how they had created fiber optics, Kevlar, titanium alloys. And at Roswell, he found all those materials and he goes, "Oh, they told me about this stuff." And then he started writing a book, and then all of a sudden he was dead.
Yeah, and isn't Velcro also supposedly didn't it come
Yes.
from ETs as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, but that was mind blowing to me when I was traveling across the country. I watched one night. I watched there's a new movie out on somewhere about the Nuremberg trial, and I watched it and I went, "Oh, holy crap! That was the point." I'll say it as safely as I can. In the Nuremberg trials, they showed the world for the first time the films of the concentration camps,
mm,
and the public hadn't seen it, and even some of the Nazis hadn't seen it,
yeah.
and it was plunged in front of the world, and the whole world saw it. And I went, that was the point of World War II. The whole point of World War II was to get them to that point so they could play those films that would have the desired effect on the consciousness of the world, which would then give them the ability to steer Western civilization from that point on. And it's just a distraction. It's just to
Yeah.
distract us,
Yeah.
either piss us off or validate our feelings. That's all it's designed to do.
Yeah.
And
It's like,
we, this is something that I really want to keep talking about, but on the channel. But what I've seen is that people now, I sound like such an old man, people now conflate having their feelings validated with being involved with something valuable.
right.
Like Gnosticism, the reason why people love the idea of David Icke and Gnosticism is because they feel they're being trapped and controlled by beings more powerful than them. So if I make up or tell you a belief that you are being controlled by false beings of light who trap you and feed off of you, then you feel emotionally validated. And so you buy into that belief, not because it's true, but because it makes you feel better. And people are conflating that. And these guys know that. They know if we can validate their feelings while getting them to just then keep the thing going, then we're good. Yes, and then you continue to create a victimization out of it.
Yeah.
And no,
Yeah.
they don't have to do it. They just watch you victimize yourself and you feel self-righteous about it and emotionally validated while you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a perpetual motion machine.
So that's what we're saying here is that all of these distractions we're seeing keep people from actually doing anything because they feel emotionally validated, and that's really all that matters.
Right.
And that's
Right. So,
yeah, the big thing like with the trans thing is if you don't call somebody a woman when they're physically not, they get upset not because of the fact that they're not a woman, but because you're not validating their feelings with the word they want you to use.
yeah.
And that's where we're at. And that couldn't have happened 30 years ago.
No.
People wouldn't have
No.
it would the psychology wouldn't have functioned anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So when you're looking at that triangle, that Masonic triangle, they're just ping pong ball. They're just ping
Yeah.
ponging at the two lower points, and it's like you're
Yes.
never going to get to the top.
Exactly. Yep. It's like the uniparty. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's like Bono and Bruce Springsteen at the No Kings. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, and they agree with us. No, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have another drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
All right. Well, I got to get ready for our
yeah,
meditation a little bit later. As always, very interesting. I could kvetch all day with you, but we'll do it again.
yeah.
Your website again,
Oh yeah. Astrology and all that fun stuff, ninthgate.net.
ninthgate.net. Okay. I'm
And
sure
then
I'll.
the acupuncture is ninthgateacupuncture.com.
Okay. That's a new one. Ninthgateacupuncture.com.
I made the switch.
All right. I will put that up when I edit this. All right.
Thanks.
My powerful, wise wizard friend, thank you so much. I appreciate you, sir. And we will do it again very soon.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank
brother.
you.
See you.